everybody, welcome to the Helen Winder Show. I'm Helen Winder and my guest today is Marcus Cauchi from Sandler Training. Hi there.
Hi, thank you very much for inviting me in today, Helen.
You're welcome, and it's great to meet you at last.
Finally.
So, tell our viewers who you are, what it is you do. Tell us about it.
Well, I normally introduce myself as a fitness instructor, which raises a giggle. But typically people invite me in because they're frustrated with having wasted so much of their time on non-opportunities. They're dealing with people who are milking them for free consultancy. So they wanted to know what you can offer, but they don't want to pay you for it because they've got a preferred supplier or they're planning to do it themselves. And so my career was the first 17 years in sales, in selling advertising, recruitment, consultancy and services. And what I discovered to my horror was that buyers were in control. And I'd been conditioned to believe that the buyer is always right. The customer is king. The man with the gold makes the rules. Now, tell me this, Helen. Who do you think invented those three rules? A buyer or a seller?
Buyer.
Pretty much. Okay. Now, the truth is that what frustrated me so much, and God knows I failed so often, I know that I left at least £56 million of my employer's money on the table in the first 17 years of my career. And I know this because I look back. I've got a painful, a very powerful memory for acts of idiocy that I've committed, of which there have been many. And so I went back over my career and I remembered points where I blew the sale because of what I said or didn't do or didn't pay attention to. And Napoleon said it rather well when he said, God is on the side of the bigger guns. Whoever has the better system will win. And buyers have a monstrously powerful system which plays on our weakness as human beings. It plays on our fear of loss, our fear of looking stupid, our fear of upsetting people, our fear of conflict, our need to make the sale, because let's face it, when we're starting out or when we're not doing particularly well, when we're in a slump, we need every sale. Now, often, and I found this myself, and what I would do is I would go into peaks and troughs. And so I'd get a lot of work on, and then I'd work at it, and I'd stop prospecting because, frankly, hate it with a passion. Good at it, but loathe it. And so I'd leave it, and then I'd go from feast to famine, feast to famine, feast to famine. And God's got a funny way of tormenting people like me, because what he does is he feeds you just enough to keep you in selling, but not enough so that you can be comfortable. And you keep falling back into the trap. And I realised that one of my biggest problems was me. The psychology of selling, the psychology of buyers, managers, has always fascinated me. So that's how I got into this, because I just suddenly looked in the mirror and thought, God, you need some help.
It's often the way, though, isn't it? You know, I started off in corporate life and, learned so much from that that I thought, what I've learned here, I need to develop myself, and then I can help others out there. So it's quite interesting.
Absolutely.
Fantastic. So what do you do?
I teach people how to take the most amount of money for the least amount of effort. I am, without question, the laziest salesman you're ever going to meet. Carl von Clausewitz was a hero of mine. He wrote a book called On War, which Sandhurst and West Point all use and all this kind of stuff. And he used to hire Prussian officers on the basis of high intelligence and laziness, minimal loss of life, and minimum effort. And I feel the same way about selling. So our motto in the business is double the money for half the work. And we teach our clients this as well, because we forget that actually what we do is really valuable. When we start to compare ourselves with everybody else, often we'll find actually we're rather good. But we charge market rate. And so we waste an inordinate amount of energy doing stuff for less than we're worth. And this comes back down to money concept. When you were a kid, what did your parents tell you about money? Money doesn't grow on trees. You have to work hard for your money. A fair day's work for a fair day's pay. Do you know how that came about?
No.
It came about because the Protestant church in England in the 17th, 18th and 19th century teamed up with all the industrialists who got hacked off with all the peasants coming in from town, spending 3 days in the factory and then going on a 5-day bender in the gin palaces. Yeah. And so they came up with this idea of temperance, and you have to work hard for your money and all this kind of stuff. It's a wonderful thing. Yeah. It's like our education system is based on Bismarck's plan from the 1830s. I mean, let's face it, yeah, we might have evolved a little bit since then. But anyway, where was I going? Remind me. Get me back on track.
I've forgotten. What did you? What it is that you provide?
What do I do? So I teach people first of all how to understand themselves, because unless you have a good self-concept, you're not going to perform well. The rule is you will only perform to the level your self-concept will allow.
Very true.
And the problem is that most people try and teach technique. And I've got to be honest, you can teach technique to a chimp. Most of my clients are living proof. But what happens is, if their head is in the wrong place, then what they'll tend to do is they'll fall into patterns of behaviour which are habituated. So, for example, when someone pushes back on price, the first thing they do is they'll offer a discount. As opposed to bite their teeth really hard until their gums bleed at least 3 times and say no. Because more often than not, when someone is giving an objection over price, that's not the real objection, it's a smoke screen. It's an easy way. It's like when someone asks you to send some information. What they're really saying is, get off the phone, but I don't want to say that to you, so I'll be polite. And if you send me some information, I tell you to call me back, then I can ignore you later. Now, what happens then is, as a result of these beliefs around money, around the customer being king, around what you can and can't say and do in the sale, you end up being highly inefficient. So one of the reasons why people bring me in is they or their salespeople are spending 80% or up to 80% of their time chasing people they should have closed or disqualified on the last conversation or call. And so they're in this vicious spiral of violence where 80% of their actual production time is spent fruitlessly before they even start. So everything they do is around 20%. So is it any wonder that this team's performance fluctuates? And so people bring me in to train their people, to coach them. We do assertiveness coaching, we do sales training, we do sales management training. I'm part of a group called Sandler. I discovered only a couple of years ago, because frankly no one apart from me was interested. We're the largest sales training company in the world. No one's ever heard of us. We're very good at training and selling, but we're really bad at marketing. We do over £250 million worth of business worldwide. We've got people in 44 countries, 300 or 400 training centres, 500 trainers, all this kind of stuff. And I'm part of that network. So we work with corporates, we work with small to medium-sized businesses, but typically it's with people who are ambitious. They want to grow fast. If you want to grow by 3 to 4%, for God's sake, don't bring me in. I can guarantee I will ruin your world. If you want to grow by 200, 300, 400%, I'm capable of doing that. And it's not that difficult. When you think about it, if at the bottom of that process, 80% of your time is spent on unproductive stuff. If I remove that and get you focused on productive stuff, that's a 400% increase in production capability. It's not difficult to do. But most people are so fixated on doing things that they've always done, and they stay stuck. And my favourite definition of a rut is a coffin with both ends kicked out. So I take people out of the coffin.
Do you know what? That's a really good way of thinking about it, and it's true. How much do you want to grow? Is it just a tiny bit, or do you really want to go for it? And I think a lot of people are very comfortable in a certain box. And you've got to, if you want to get somewhere, you have to come out of it.
I don't know if any of your viewers have salespeople on their team, but I was a classic average salesman before I started doing this. And I remember when I was in recruitment, I averaged about £30,000 a month in billings. 1 month I did £96,000. For the next 4 months I couldn't even close my own fly. Because what happened was I went so far above my self-concept and I had to readjust. So for 3 months I couldn't do anything. And again, it keeps coming back down to this psychology. Understanding that only people who like themselves will typically be able to ask for help. If you need the sale, you've lost already. If you want it, you can be independent. And understanding your value, being able to sell value, is a real skill, because most people don't. They're always worried about cost. And because in their mind, they're constrained by what a lot of money is, for example. So, in your line of work, I don't know what you would consider to be charging a lot for your service, but pick a number.
Say $22.50 an hour.
$22.50 an hour. Okay, right. So if I were to say that you were able to get 50 an hour, what would happen physically inside you?
Physically, there was sort of a little bit of a...
Absolutely. Absolutely. But if it's costing me £300-400 an hour to do what you can do for 50, does it represent good value?
Yeah.
Okay. Would I be willing to spend 1/6 of what it's costing me in order to make that problem go away forever?
More than likely.
Absolutely. So why wouldn't you be willing to charge it?
Yeah. Very true. Very true. And the strangest thing is, I know that rate should be higher, but it's that idea of, I don't want to seem too expensive, or will they understand the value that they're getting? I can just hear listeners and our viewers saying that round in their
well, it's a normal reaction.
Yeah.
It's what everybody does. I remember doing it in the first place. But then when I first started doing this, I had a telemarketing business of my own. I'd been made redundant. We all got made redundant when we got taken over by an offshore body shop, the software company I was at. And I thought, right, okay, I've had enough of working for other people. I want to work for myself.
Yeah.
So I put myself out there because I was very good on the phone, in spite of the fact that I hated it. And I was doing working for other people at £100 a day, plus 10% of whatever they sold, which was fine and dandy. I was getting meetings with the likes of the IT director at Lloyd's Bank, all sorts of things. Then what I discovered was they couldn't close. So I was working on the basis of £100 a day because I was never making any 10%.
Yeah.
And even if they did make a sale, I don't think they actually told me.
Yeah.
Because I wasn't savvy enough to track that. Now, what I then discovered was I came across the system I'm teaching now, Sandler, and I went from about a 1 in 20 close rate to a 1 in 3 close rate in about 5 weeks.
Okay. Wow.
I thought that was pretty good.
Yeah.
So I carried on, and then it went to 1 in 2, then it went to 1 in 1. I thought, right, what can I do to try and mix this up a little bit? So I doubled my fee. And they paid it. And I stayed at 100% close rate. And then I doubled my fee again about 4 weeks later when I started going out and selling again. And I got another, I kept closing. And then I doubled it again, so now I was charging 12 times more than I was before, 12 times more than market rate. And people were happy to pay it. Even when I was selling against an incumbent provider, they were happy with and had no intention of displacing.
Wow.
Yeah. So then I bought the franchise, and I thought, with a big enough parachute anywhere in the English-speaking world, I can make a living. And it's paid off since then. So from that point, within 3 years, I've gone from £100 a day to charging £15,000 a day.
Wow.
For investment banks. If any of you know investment banks, by the way, do please refer them on, because they really can't sell for toffee, and they really need my help. But the difference in money concept shifted dramatically, and most of my clients go through this. It's not unusual. I have a client at the moment who does environmental services, so pest control, clearing wasps and rats and cleaning drains and all that kind of stuff. And he's now charging 5 times what he was charging 4 months ago.
Wow.
And getting it. And what's more, getting referred because people are happy with the service and they don't mind paying it.
Yeah. That's the thing, isn't it?
Yeah.
If you've got a product or a service that people really benefit from and can see the advantages and so on.
Okay, I'm not a big fan of selling features and benefits.
Okay.
And I'll tell you for why.
Yeah.
Okay. If you were to imagine you're going out selling to somebody now, what are the top 3 benefits that you bring to the table to someone who's right in your sweet spot?
Okay, knowledge.
Knowledge, yeah.
My own personal experience,
okay.
As well as business experience and deliverance. They get what I promise.
Okay. Now, bad news. Your firm's folded. Good news, you've just been taken over by a direct competitor in your space. Okay. You're going out and selling.
Yeah.
What are you going to be saying?
Well, I wouldn't be selling myself, would I? Because
you wouldn't be selling your experience as the person in front of that prospect?
Now you've got me thinking.
You wouldn't be selling delivery, you wouldn't be selling knowledge and expertise.
Well, you would be, wouldn't you?
So you sound just like everyone else when you sell features and benefits.
Yeah.
The mistake people make is that they try and paint the picture for the prospect. Our job as salespeople is to give them the brushes, the canvas and the paints and say, paint me your picture, tell me your story.
Yeah.
Because when they do it, it becomes their data.
Yes.
And prospects never argue with their own data. But they'll argue with yours till you're blue in the face.
Yeah.
And salespeople have a tendency to use their mouth too often instead of their ears. And I believe listening actually is a full body experience.
Yeah.
You should be listening with your eyes. You should be looking for things like pupil contraction and dilation, tightening of the lips, coloration of the cheek and the throat, breathing patterns, body posture, shifts and subtle shifts in comfort and discomfort. And so you should be reading between the lines. But most salespeople are so fixated. They're like a 14-year-old boy on a fumble, to be perfectly honest.
Yeah.
They're always trying to get the result. And the result is that they get to show up and throw up and do their presentation. You should buy from us because our carbungulator's better than defibrillator on the rivets, and we've been around since this, that and the other, and Intel Ventures is our backer, and who cares?
Yeah.
Have I told you I want to know any of that stuff?
Yeah.
And the problem is that we don't listen enough, we don't question enough.
Very true.
So I think where we really stand out is in the quality of our questions. If a prospect says to me something like, do you do psychometric profiling? Now, I could easily say yes, because we do.
Yeah.
But I don't know what their motive is. I don't know what their intent behind the question is, and I don't know what's caused it or triggered it. So instead of just shooting back an answer, my rule is that you never end a sentence on a full stop when you're on a question.
Yeah.
There?
Yeah.
Okay, see, I've even done it there. And so you'd say, do you do psychometrics? I say, that's an interesting question. I mean, why did you bring that up at this point in the conversation?
Yeah.
So, well, a few years ago I applied for a job, did really well at interview, but flunked the psychometrics and they didn't give it to me. And then I got another job that was identical and I aced it. So I'm not going to use this on my people.
Okay.
Yeah? Now, I could easily have painted myself into a box.
Yeah. Yeah.
But salespeople lack subtlety. They're always trying to get to the result.
They hit you with it.
Well, think about it. We're all trained by our mothers to loathe and despise salespeople. Because a quick game of word association. First word that comes to mind when I say pen.
Yeah.
What's the first word?
It writes.
Okay. Watch.
Tells the time.
Okay. Trousers.
You wear them.
Salesman.
Yeah.
Yeah. Now, anyone watching, I'm guessing, when you went through that process, the first word that came to mind wasn't flattery.
No.
Okay? It was liar, pushy, greedy, slimy, something expletive. And we're all conditioned to do that. Now, if we don't want to be seen like one of them, odds are we're going to behave in the way that we think a decent human being would behave.
Yeah.
Which is to be friendly and to be chatty and to be warm and welcoming and to avoid any form of conflict and avoid upsetting them. But actually, people have dug themselves into a hole.
Yeah.
And most of the problems that I face with my clients, they've dug for themselves. They've created them. They're the architect of their own doom.
Yeah.
Now, if I can't have a frank and honest conversation with them, then I can't do my job. If I'm trying to be their friend and I'm afraid that by asking them difficult questions, they're going to get upset, then I'm in trouble.
Yeah.
I remember meeting the chief executive of a large PR firm up in London. And after about 18 minutes of this sales interview with her, I said, I have to ask you a difficult question, but I'm afraid that you're going to throw me out if I do. I said, no, I can take anything. Are you absolutely sure? Because this is a real doozy. I mean, I'm pretty sure you're going to be upset. I said, no, I can take it. I said, what do you reckon the probability of you still being in this job in 6 months is? Yeah?
Okay.
And there was about a minute's silence, and I can tell you that dragged on for a long time.
Yeah.
And she said, about 50-50. Okay, really? 2 weeks later, she was fired.
Oh, wow.
Yeah. Now, how come I saw it and she couldn't?
Yeah. It's very true.
Now, what's interesting is I coached her and helped her get a job that got double the pay with triple the bonus. So she went from 150,000 to 300,000 basic salary with a 450,000 pound bonus on top. So all in all, it worked out. But it was very, very telling because when you're stuck in the moment and you can't see outside of it because you're all worried about what's going on and you've got all this noise around you.
Yeah.
You can't sit back and think.
No.
So a lot of CEOs bring me in because what they want is they want a sounding board. who's going to be honest and callous with them, to be perfectly honest. And no one brings me in for kisses and cuddles.
No.
They bring me in because they're serious as a heart attack about changing their sales behaviours and results. And they're just sick and tired of listening to excuses from their salespeople. It's the economy, it's the competition, it's our marketing, it's our pricing, our product range is old and tired. Who cares? If quality was really the issue, do you think McDonald's or Coca-Cola would be at the top of the food chain?
Well, exactly.
We're essentially chimps with egos and speech. We're not that bright. We like to think we are. But actually, most of us have been riding on the coattails of giants for years. I mean, when was the last time you invented the internal combustion engine, the wheel, or ceramics? Yeah, none of us have done
None
any
of
of
us.
that, precisely.
So
most of us coast, and we like to think that we're somehow advanced, but we're basically great apes.
Yeah.
And we're creatures of emotion. We're creatures of habit.
Yeah.
And that's what I teach people how to understand. When you understand how people tick, then you can preempt, you can plan.
Yeah.
So when I work with my clients, they'll phone me up before they go into meet a prospect. And we'll sit down and rehearse for an hour and a half, 2 hours, all the different permutations. And they'll come out, and when we do our debriefing call afterwards, and say it happened exactly as we planned it.
Yeah.
Now, how can you do that? I mean, I don't even know what they sell, half of them.
Yeah.
It's irrelevant.
Yeah.
Yeah?
Yeah.
And just being able to get under the radar, get them engage into the conversations that prospects are already having. Draw them out, get them to paint the picture of why they want to fix it, get them committed. Because most salespeople look for interest and curiosity.
Yeah.
That's intellectual.
Yeah.
I need you in your gut.
Yeah.
I need a visceral response. If you're not buying at the gut level, you're going to change your mind.
Yeah.
You're going to back out, or you're going to hit me with a stream of smoke screens, excuses, objections, higher authority, delays, budget freezes, whatever.
Yeah.
And I haven't got a clue. Because most salespeople, when you ask them, okay, how did it go? They say, oh, it went really well. And the sales manager says, why? They have no idea. They really liked us.
Yeah.
They were very positive. I mean, how wishy-washy can you get?
Well, it's like a board meetings. They waffle you. I don't know whether many of you have been on the board level meetings, but you just get waffled.
Yeah.
And at the end of the day, I don't want to know that.
Well, the problem is that people in management aren't clear. If there's a problem in sales, it's probably a problem to do with management, and the problem was at the recruitment stage.
Yeah.
Wrong hires. One of the biggest reasons why people bring us in is they're sick and tired of hiring James Bond for him to turn into Mr. Bean the moment he's on payroll.
Yeah.
And they interview like Bond, they reference like Bond, they test like Bond, and then the moment they're in the job, they just turn into this money pit.
Yes.
And salespeople, I don't know if anyone's ever calculated the cost of a wrong hire in sales, but traditionally you're told it costs you roughly 5 times salary to hire the wrong person. If you get away that cheap, God himself is looking down on you and shining his light of divinity on you, because you pay the cost of interviewing, selecting, hiring, onboarding, training, managing. Then you put them out into the field, so they burn through your leads, they burn up expenses, they then go out and upset your customers, and then that lifetime customer value, which is made up of average order value times average order frequency times customer lifetime times referrals over a 3 or 5 year period, could easily be 128 times what you paid them.
Oh gosh, yeah. When you list all of those, absolutely, yeah.
And all the internal meetings where they've wasted everybody's time doing their work of fiction, which is also sometimes known as a pipeline report or a forecast.
Yeah.
And they blather on about a deal that's never going to land. I remember sitting in on one sales meeting with a client, and the manager wasn't very good, and we were assessing them. And the sales guy came in and said, I know this is the 10th month this deal has slipped, but that's exactly why it will land this month. So, well, good work. And he put it into the forecast. Now, the manager didn't survive very long, understandably. But what on earth was he thinking?
Yeah.
I mean, why dedicate scarce technical resource, management time, and 10 salespeople around the table?
Absolutely.
For every minute is 10 man minutes.
Yeah.
For every 6 minutes, that's 1 man hour.
Yeah.
Yeah. Now, if you do that torture every single week for 48 weeks, that could easily be 3 months of a full-time employee.
Absolutely, yeah. I think where it needs to start is right at the very beginning with, I mean, if people are starting out in business, then get it right now.
Yeah.
Understand the whole process. Engage with somebody just like yourself, so that then as they grow and as they bring, team members on, they're already giving them the right information on what to do.
Absolutely. I mean, people bring us in for 4 reasons typically: strategy, structure, systems and skills.
Yeah.
So strategy is getting from Z back to A and working out what behaviours are necessary, because you can only control behaviour.
Yeah.
I mean, most people's plans consist of a work of fiction put together on a spreadsheet, which then gathers dust.
Yeah.
A plan should be a living, working document, broken down into daily, weekly, monthly objectives, 90-day goals, all this kind of stuff. But people don't do that. So that's strategy, working out where you want to end up and how you're going to get there.
Yeah.
Structure, looking at whether you've got the right people doing the right job. One of my clients was a Caribbean tourist office, and they were having all sorts of problems. Sales were down, there was conflict, all this kind of stuff. We profiled them, and what we discovered was that they were doing the wrong job. We restructured them. They didn't have to fire anybody, and all 4 ended up increasing production by at least 85% within 2 weeks. Now, what then stopped was everybody stopped fighting.
Yes.
Yeah, and they got on harmoniously, which meant they got more done. Now, that's structure, so making sure you've got the right people doing the right things. Systems. I used to avoid systems and hate them like the plague.
Yeah.
Now, what I've realised is being disciplined, being systematic, sets you free. Absolutely. By giving up a small freedom, you end up getting much more freedom and greater liberty.
Yeah.
And so we systematise everything. We systematise how you attract candidates into your business, how you attract prospects, how you deselect them. So we're big on disqualification. I want to get to know quickly.
Yeah.
If you're going to say no to me, I don't want to have to go through 5 meetings and £50,000 worth of cost, tying up 18 people of my time, my team, over a 4-week period, for you to tell me no. I want to find that out on the first phone call, or certainly no later than the first meeting.
Yes, absolutely.
Okay. Systems for recruiting, so that you recruit James Bond instead of Basildon, who's a or a cousin. Systems for prospecting, systems for generating referrals. And most people, if I ask most people, then I say, well, what's your system for generating referrals? What they say is, I go to networking. Yeah?
Yeah.
Now, what we teach is a systematic approach to referral marketing. Yeah. So you can be really lazy. I mean, I work with between 4 and 8 people at any one time. Typically, any more than 4 means I'm too busy for my liking. I really like being lazy. With 4 people, I can get anything up to 28 to 30 leads a month.
Wow.
Yeah?
Yeah.
Now, with that, do you reckon I have any problems filling my pipeline?
No.
Okay. Now, how much prospecting time do I do? 4 lunches.
4 lunches, yeah.
4 lunches. I do it over meals. Look at me. Yeah? Now,
I need to get out there.
Exactly. And you can forecast 6 to 9 months in advance off the back of your referral pipeline.
Yeah.
Now, how cool is that?
I know.
I now can use golf as an excuse for actually generating business. I mean, I joined a networking group that does golf for 45 quid a month. I go out and I play golf twice a month, and I network. And it's business.
Yeah.
And I actually get stuff. That's so cool. I mean, how cool is that? And I'm finding referral partners through that process. So I can exercise one tiny passion, which I'm really bad at, and feed my real hobby, which is getting inside people's heads.
Yeah. I'm absolutely intrigued now. I think we'll be having other conversations.
And then the final piece is skills. Say skills in terms of how do you pick up the phone and get past the gatekeeper.
Yeah.
Now, gatekeepers are hilarious. Gatekeepers have 4 questions. Who are you?
Yeah.
What are you calling about? Where are you calling from? And does he know you? Yeah?
Yeah.
Okay. So we just played their game.
Yeah.
Dring, dring. You pick up. You say hello. Helen's not in, is she? To which the answer is either yes or no. Okay. But she's in a meeting, isn't she? To which the answer is either yes or no. But you've just put a phone call through to her, haven't you? Yes or no. Now, if they say yes, no, no, then my response is great. I'll take her. Thanks. Because she can't say she's not in, she's in a meeting, or she's on the phone. 85% get-through rate in the real world, just by turning their system back on.
Yeah, I can see how it works, because obviously my other business, we do call handling.
Right, okay.
So we look after the calls for our clients.
Oh, right, okay.
And so we have people calling in for them, and they ask very similar questions. Well, if, are they in? And I give the same answers. No. Are they on the phone? Quite, you know, and you go through them. So what you just said, it just rang because it's true. And
absolutely.
So, yeah, I'm that wolf.
Okay, so you're the gatekeeper. Now,
I'm the
what you have to
gatekeeper,
understand is gatekeepers are doing their job.
Absolutely.
But we have to do our job too, so we've got to find a way around.
Yeah.
Now, typically, most people's idea of an elevator pitch is, hello, my name's Bob from Pronto Print, we print stuff.
Yeah.
That's not exciting. So we teach a thing called a 30-second commercial, which frankly I've made more money off than any other skill or technique I've ever learned. And it's very simple. We help job title in industry or geography who are emotion 1 with symptom 1, emotion 2 with symptom 2, emotion 3 with symptom 3 and a negative question.
Okay.
So, Helen, typically we help small business owners who are frustrated that they're not meeting enough decision makers consistently. Some tell us that they're meeting decision makers, but then they're not really closing as much as they'd like. And a few tell us that they close, but then they feel squeezed to discount, and then they feel that they have to overservice in order to keep the business.
Yeah.
None of that rings any bells, does it?
A few.
Okay, but I mean, it's not worth talking about for 2 more minutes, is it? That's what I thought. Look, I'll run a couple more past you. Okay, now what you're going to do is you're going to throw another 3 out there and see if those hit. Look, I'll hang up in a second. Let me just run 3 more past you, and then you can decide whether to hang up.
Yeah.
Okay. And so you run another 3 past, and if they say yes, you say, well, why did you pick that one? And you enter a conversation. But you have to enter their conversation. If you don't enter their conversation, then you're educating, and you should never educate in the sale. Big mistake.
Yeah.
Sell today, educate tomorrow.
Yeah. Yeah, absolutely. I must admit, you know, I'll pick up the phone, and as soon as they start, PPI. As soon as they say something like that, then you know you.
So you should never sound like a salesperson.
Exactly. Yeah, and I can pick them up within.
Well, salespeople sound like overpaid clowns, to be honest. Yeah. Hello, Miss Winder. Are you having a nice day today? You know, are you the person responsible for making decisions about tiddlywinks? Yeah. And you just hear all this stuff. Just sounds all the same. Yeah. When we open a call, it's something like, Helen, I have to be honest, this is a cold call. Do you want to hang up first? Yeah. Yeah? Yeah. Most people giggle. You don't use that for engineers or lawyers because they don't have a sense of humour.
No.
Well, it's not that they don't have a sense of humour. They don't experience selling in the same way.
No.
Yeah, if you're at the sharp end, someone will appreciate that.
Yeah.
So you use that and most people will giggle.
Yeah.
So let me tell you in 30 seconds why I'm calling. Then you can decide whether to hang up or invite me in. Fair?
Yeah.
I've just closed you.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah?
Yeah.
You're going to listen. It's going to take 30 seconds. My job is to talk. Yours is to make a decision at the end, yes or no, and nothing in between.
Yeah.
How cool.
Exactly. And that's what we all need to do. We all need to engage with exactly that mindset. Yeah. In your business, on your journey through business,
this is going.
as many of us will have experienced, it's not always a straight road. There's going to be some potholes. There's going to be some roadworks. How's it been for you?
I teach a rule, which is if your foot is hurting, you're probably standing on your own toe.
Yeah.
And I always teach my clients, look in the mirror. When something goes wrong, look in the mirror.
Yeah.
It's something that you did, and you normally have to look upstream to find out where it is.
Yeah.
And in terms of the mistakes that I've made, I remember pitching for a piece of business. It was about £3.2 million worth of recruitment. I cold called my way in. I got sent over to Eindhoven. Have you ever been to Eindhoven?
No.
Dump. It's a cow town, basically.
Yeah.
It's somewhere Phillips dumped themselves and then left. I was talking to a former subsidiary of theirs, and it was to recruit 120 people, and it was to do this, that, and the other. And I flew over 4 times, and they downgraded me from a 12 to a 6-seater plane. And I put together a proposal, and then they asked for revisions, and I put back, and then they asked for more revisions, and so on. And all the way through, my bosses were yakking in my ear, saying the customer is king, give them what they want. If he asks you, you have to give it to him because the man with the gold makes the rules, all that kind of terrible mindset. Anyway, so I did something that was unheard of. I managed to get a letter of intent, which was, when I got back to the office, they were really impressed. Really impressed that I had a letter of intent. What I discovered was it was worth toilet paper. Because I phone up on the due day on the Friday and say, can I speak to Martin? And the receptionist said, I'm sorry, Martin's left. So, all right, okay. Has he gone home for the weekend? Oh no, he's left the company. Where's he gone? Rundstad. Now Rundstad is the world's largest recruitment company.
Yeah.
So Martin left with my proposal, which was basically a blueprint to make £3.2 million in his new job. Yeah.
Wow.
Now, I should have known better. My gut was telling me, don't do it, don't do it, don't do it, but my bosses were saying so.
Yeah.
And the problem was that because the culture of the business was that you over-service and over-please the customer, we didn't pay attention to our gut.
Yeah.
And so that was a waste. Now, I've made many mistakes like that. Other mistakes along the way in terms of free consultancy, in terms of my own money concept, allowing myself to let the noise in my head get in the way. Often because I haven't planned.
Yeah.
I'm a stickler with my clients. I give them a really hard time. If they don't do a pre-call plan, they may not call me for coaching.
Yeah.
Okay, so I upset a client recently because I told him very coldly that if he didn't sort himself out, then we weren't going to work together. Now, I've got to be honest, that's a condition. I'm not there to do the work. My job is to fill in the 20% you can't do.
Yeah.
So I expect people to work through their pre-call plan, what they want to happen, what the best case, an acceptable, their walkaway point is, what a good outcome would look like, what red flags or alerts they'd be looking for. So if those come up, then it's a walkaway.
Yeah.
Because knowing what no looks like early means you can get the heck out of Dodge.
Absolutely.
And if you don't, you're mad. I mean, just why would you? You're dead a very long time.
Yeah.
Yeah. Why would you want to spend a moment longer with someone who was trying to milk you for free consultancy, wasn't going to buy, and you were never going to become friends?
Yeah.
Why not just be adult about it and say, Helen, I don't believe this is going to work. Let me tell you why. We can still be pleasant when we meet in the street or at a networking event, but there's no point us taking this conversation any further.
Yeah.
And so learning that was a really hard lesson. Learning how to plant my feet, learning I could ask difficult questions. I can't believe the questions I can ask. It's been a real liberation. And I get really interesting conversations. I have people tell me, Marcus, you've known me for an hour, and you know me better than my business partner of 16 years. I've never even told my wife that. Yeah,
wow.
That kind of stuff.
Yeah.
Now, that's a real privilege. But that's where the quality of your questions comes from. So one lesson I learnt was that the quality of your questions is where your credibility comes from, not what you tell people.
Yeah. Yeah.
And so I had to learn that hard. Learning that you didn't have to finish a presentation was another big lesson.
Okay.
I remember going through, prospect was yes, 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 really hot to trot, and then I just said something and he went from hot to neutral in the blink of an eye, because I could have stopped. I learned a really useful technique which is called the thermometer close. And you present a couple of the things, the pains back to them. Now, you're allowed to use features and benefits in the presentation piece, but that happens at the end, not the beginning. And you present a couple of your benefits back and say how you're going to help them fix their cold calling problem or gatekeepers or whatever it happens to be. And then you say, on a scale of 1 to 10, where are you now? And they say 7. Okay. So you do another couple, and then you ask again, 1 to 10, and they give you an 8.
Okay.
Now, what you find out is that you're making progress. You're actually advancing. If it stays the same or it goes down, you know you've done something stupid. So now you have to backtrack. Okay, because you can't go on until you've found out what you've done wrong.
Otherwise, it's just going to get colder and colder.
Well, yeah, absolutely. Because what happens is that this is where doubt creeps in, and we cannot leave them with doubt. Remember, people come to us because they're looking for a solution to a problem they can't fix. They're looking for a safe pair of hands. And they're looking for somebody who has their best interests at heart, not your own. And so if they think that you have your selfish self-interest at the forefront of your mind and your objectives, then they're going to back away. They'll go neutral on you. But if your emphasis, if your attention is 100% on them, their problem, understanding their situation, then you don't fall foul. I think it was Gartner some time ago did some research, and they said that the single biggest reason why business owners don't bring externals in is they're afraid they won't understand their business. Now, with the approach that we take is very Socratic for lots of questions. You definitely understand it. And what's more, you understand it to the demonstrable satisfaction of the other person. So when they feel understood, remember, as human beings, we want to feel felt, be heard, and feel understood.
Yeah.
We're driven to do that. We're social apes.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Can't get away from it.
Well, we can deny our heritage all we like, but we're basically social apes descended from the timid ones.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, the ones who ran away from the brown rock just in case it was a lion.
Yeah.
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 We've been genetically engineered to be cautious and timorous, and we've got this little piece of flesh in our head called the amygdala on either side, and if that gets triggered, it triggers the freeze, flight, or fight response.
Mm-hmm.
Now, in a cellar, if it triggers the freeze response in the cellar, what happens?
Well, they
crash and burn.
Yeah. Yeah.
So what, do you think you're going to buy from somebody who crashes and burns in front of you? Unlikely. What about if they start to look for a bolt hole and they're looking shifty and on edge?
Forget it.
And what if they pick a fight with you?
Yeah.
Right. Now, if on the other hand, I do something that triggers your freeze response, your flight response, or your fight response, I'm in trouble as well.
Yeah. Yeah.
So my number one job is to keep... we have two brain systems. We have system one, which is made up of our reptilian and mammalian brain.
Yeah.
And I want you to think of that as an elephant.
Yeah.
Okay? And system two, which is the rider.
Mm-hmm.
That's the adult human brain that does reason and logic and language and evidence and all that kind of stuff. Where does the elephant go?
To the watering hole.
Wherever it wants.
Wherever it wants,
okay.
Absolutely. Just roams.
What's the rider's job?
To control. To direct.
Keep the elephant happy.
Oh, okay.
In both of us.
Yeah. I was thinking of the man sat on the
but
top with his legs behind the ears.
Absolutely, but if the elephant has it in his mind that he wants to go to the water or the banana tree, okay, what can the rider do?
Not enough.
He can whack him, can poke him, but the elephant's going to win in the end.
Yeah.
Yeah?
Yeah,
it's only with its compliance. Mm-hmm. So our job is to sell to the brain.
Yeah.
This is where salespeople go wrong, because what they try and do is they sell to logic and reason.
Yeah.
Which actually is where the only bit of that is important is in confirming the emotional decision with evidence that justifies it. I'll give you a great example of how stupid we are. Okay, a few years ago things were going really well for me, and I thought, let me make my life a little bit difficult. So I wondered to myself, do they have one? So I turned right, and they did. So I bought it. So anyway, a week passes by, and I haven't told my wife that I've just spent £73,000 on a convertible. And I'm thinking, how am I going to tell her? How am I going to tell her? And so I phoned her up and I said, sweetheart, what's the sound quality like? He said, why do you ask? And I said, well, I've got a new hands-free. And she said, oh, it's much better. So I said, great. So I turned up in a £73,000 hands-free that came with a free convertible. Anyway, my reasoning, my logic behind buying this car was this, how I justified it, because I wanted one. I wanted a convertible. I'd had one before, wanted another one. It was sunny. And that was basically my motivation. Anyway, so my motivation for buying it was, if I drive around in this big extension of my virility, and I turn up to clients, they'll know I've arrived. Now, bear in mind, at this point, my practice was up in London. How many times in 3 years of owning this money pit do you reckon my clients or prospects or suspects ever saw my car?
Not many.
None. Because in London, you park in underground car parks, and then you take a taxi or walk.
Yeah.
Yeah?
Yeah.
Okay?
Yeah.
Well, generally taxi. Built for comfort, not speed. So there I was, trying to convince myself that this was a really good, rational decision. For business reasons.
Yeah.
It had nothing to do with it. All I needed to do was justify it enough so I could overcome my internal parental guilt.
Yes.
Yeah?
Yeah.
Oh, well, you can't do it. And she didn't give me any grief. All she did was go, and that was it. So anyway, I have a very understanding wife.
That's good. I made my husband take his dream car back.
Oh, no. Yeah.
That was his 40th. I think he had a little bit of a moment.
Oh, right, okay. Okay, well, I'm not going to say anything because I'm not going to be cited as third party in the divorce action on this one. Excellent.
Well, listen, how can people get in touch with you?
You can contact me on my mobile, 07515 937 221 if you're in the southeast of England. I do have a telephone number which is 0118 940 4150. You can look me up on Twitter, which is _Inquisitor, and capital T for the, and capital I for Inquisitor, and Inquisitor has an OR, just in case, look me up on Google, YouTube. YouTube has lots and lots of videos with little clips, just enough to make them dangerous, not quite enough to be able to do it all themselves, hopefully, and my LinkedIn profile.
Okay.
So feel free. And for network, for business, FORE-business is the golf network that I'm in. So if anyone wants to play a round of golf, then please do give me a call.
Absolutely. Well, listen, thank you so much
It's been a pleasure.
for taking the time. It's great to meet you.
Likewise.
And to our viewers out there, if you have any questions or you need to, advance your sales, and not just a weeny bit but a big bit, then I think Marcus is the guy to contact.
Thank you.
Thank
It's been
you.
a real pleasure.
Thank you so much. And thank you to everybody watching in today. I'll be back very soon with another interview. You can check them all out at www.thehelenwindershow.com. I'll see you soon. Bye for now.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Bye-bye.